Biden's decision leaves the Democratic Party without a candidate at the top of their ticket just 106 days before the election. So how does the party pick a new candidate? Joining us to help explain that process, Stephen Caliendo, a political science professor at North Central College. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Don. How are you?
I'm great. So just break down the steps that Democrats will have to take in finding that new candidate. I'm sure you've gotten that question a lot today. What's next?
Yeah, last 8 hours have been interesting, to say the least,
Yes.
for a political scientist. But I will tell you that it's important, I think, for everybody to remember that there has been no votes cast for the Democratic nomination yet. Those votes happen at the convention. We saw it happen last week at the Republican convention on Monday night. Those who were gathered there cast their ballots for Donald Trump and then J.D. Vance for vice president. That's how it works. Now, there is a little bit of a wrinkle this year because Ohio had sort of set a deadline that was a little bit earlier. I think there's a way to get around that. There was going to be a vote virtually, but nothing's really changing other than the fact that the folks who were pledged to vote for Joe Biden now will be free to vote for whomever they like, either at the convention or in a virtual election that happens in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier decision. So is it possible for them to have a nominee before the start of the DNC here in Chicago, or could it take longer?
Yeah, so in the interim, after they made that decision to go to do a virtual nomination, Ohio came to some agreement that would have allowed the nominee to emerge from the convention and still be on the Ohio ballot. Now, whether or not they change those rules, the Republicans are in control of the state legislature in Ohio. If they decide to make some changes this week, that could happen. But as it stands now, the vote could take place in Chicago at the DNC. And then all ballot access in all 50 states would still be available.
It's going to be a busy few days here. So there's already been some support for Vice President Kamala Harris, as you know. One of the big names, though, that has not yet nominated her is former President Barack Obama. So could there be someone else he has in mind?
Well, even if he does, I don't know for sure, Don, that he would come out and say so directly. I don't know how much he wants to put his thumb on the scale. I think the quiet we're hearing from some folks it ought not be read necessarily as concern about Vice President Harris, but rather as concern that there should be some process. And Vice President Harris herself, when she announced that she was going to be running, said, I want to earn this nomination. And so that word is being used a lot by her folks. The talking points are certainly out. Surrogates for Vice President Harris have talked about earning the spot on the ticket. I've heard it many times over the last 8 hours. So I think that Vice President Harris wants there to be some sort of a process as well, so that there's a more of a legitimacy and a good feeling of bringing folks together when they do get to Chicago next month.
All right, Professor Stephen Caliendo, thank you so much.